Well, most of what we're hearing out of Washington is about reopening the nation's economy after the initial fight against COVID-19.
Yeah, but lost in all the chatter is the fact that state and local governments are paying a crippling price, not to mention small businesses, especially those which are Black-owned.
Joining us now to discuss this is Democratic U.S. Representative Val Demings, who's been serving the 10th District of Florida since 2016. She is, of course, well known for being an impeachment manager in the Senate trial of President Trump. Thanks so much for joining us, Congresswoman. I remember interviewing you back when you were Chief of Police in Orlando. Always good to see you. I know you're about serving the people, and we welcome you to the Black News Channel.
It's great to see you. Great to see both of you, and good to be with you tonight.
Thank you very much. And we'll start you off with this. Working people in this country are in real financial trouble, as you know, but you and your fellow Democrats, led by Speaker Nancy Pelosi, are fast-tracking CARES 2, a package that's probably going to top over the $2.2 billion CARES package, the original one which was signed into law last month. What can you tell us about this new measure?
Well, what I can tell you, and you've really summed it up nicely, we are certainly, as a nation, our families are in trouble. We had 30 million people apply for unemployment benefits. And as you well know, with the CARES 1 package, our primary responsibility was to take care of families, to take care of individuals, to take care of those small businesses, those mom and pop businesses that many people, contributed their life savings to start. And so we thought the best way to do that was through the direct cash payments. We got those out, at least if you had direct deposit, it was easier to get out. However, as you well know, we had to create an interim relief package because we ran out of money. We've never seen anything like COVID-19 before, which requires us to do some things we've never done before, but we're currently working on CARES 2. And while it's still a work in progress, we have to continue to take care of our families, those small businesses, those who are self-employed like gig workers and freelancers, but we also need to take care of our first responders, those workers who are on the front lines getting it done every day to protect us. We know that state and local governments were left out, although the Democrats tried hard to convince our colleagues on the other side of the aisle that those local governments are really the foundation of this nation. We weren't able to get it in CARES 1. We're fighting hard to get them covered in CARES 2. When we think about our police, our fire, our nurses, our healthcare workers, our bus drivers, our teachers, and others. So, as I said, it's still a work in progress, but we're going to do everything that we can and we need to do to get it done.
What could possibly happen to cities, towns, counties if they don't get the money?
Well, I'm sure you remember not too long ago, the Senate Majority Leader said that something to the effect of just let them go bankrupt. And that's certainly not good governing. That's not good leadership, especially during a crisis, especially during a pandemic. And those local governments, large and small, have had to bear the brunt of COVID-19 and the effects on their budgets. And so it is our responsibility to make sure, just like we would during a natural disaster like a hurricane or tornado or wildfires, it is our responsibility to make sure that those federal dollars are there to help those local governments stay afloat.
Congresswoman, what are members of the House doing to get partisan politics out of the way so this emergency relief funding gets to where it needs to get to, and that's into the hands of the people who have to pay bills and small businesses trying to open and reopen and stay open?
I'll tell you, for someone, I worked as a social worker. I worked as you know, a career law enforcement officer, had the honor of serving as the chief of police and now in Congress. While I'm honored to be in Congress, one of the most disturbing things and one of the most shocking things that I've experienced really has been the partisan politics. Look, we can all protect our values and our belief systems. That's fine. But when it comes to protecting people and saving lives, we've had over 70,000 people in this country die of COVID-19. So if there was any time to come together, the time is now. But quite frankly, I think we need a bridge builder at the top. We need a uniter in chief at the top. And unfortunately, our colleagues on the other side of the aisle are taking their cues, if you will, unfortunately, from the president. And we need to be listening to the medical experts now, or scientists. This is not a political issue. This is a public health emergency, a public health crisis, and we need to act accordingly.
Indeed, and we of course know that everyone's life matters, but we also know that people of color are really being affected by this in so many ways. What's being done to ensure that our communities are not left behind when it comes to the health crisis and also the economic crisis that is facing the Black community?
You know, the numbers are really quite startling. When I mentioned that 70,000 people have died of COVID-19 in this country, 60% of the people who have died are African Americans. Now let's let that soak in for a minute. And you know, there's a lot of speculation of why that might be. What I believe is it is the result of decades of injustices and discrimination and unequal treatment that has now manifested itself in the adverse effect in Black communities as we deal with COVID-19. Look, a wise person once said that when America catches a cold, Black communities catch the flu or catch pneumonia. And that's exactly what we are seeing now. It's about access. When we do not have access to good quality health care, when we do not have the ability to pay for prescription drugs, when education is lacking, when housing is lacking, when economic development is lacking in Black and brown communities, this is the result. As you well know, we're trying in Florida still. We tried under the previous governor and now with our current governor to extend Medicaid, where almost 1 million people would be covered. The governor has refused to do that. We're still working with him and trying to get that done. But the lack of access has caused this. Also, the Office of Minority Health. It's an office that was created through the CDC, Center for Disease Control, and President Trump cut the funding. And we need to have it restored because we need to continue to do the proper research to understand how diseases like COVID-19 and others disproportionately affect African American communities.
Indeed, there are so many issues. Congresswoman Demings, we have to take a quick break. Would you please stay with us and we will continue with you after this short break?
Sure.
All right.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back on BNC. Welcome back to BNC World Headquarters. We want to welcome back Congresswoman Val Demings, who we've been speaking with about COVID-19. But we want to shift gears a little bit now to politics. Hearing your name being spoken about in terms of a possible vice presidential candidate. What are your thoughts? Would you do it?
Well, let me say this. I grew up in Florida. I've lived in Florida all of my life. I'm the daughter of a maid and a janitor. I grew up poor, Black and female in the South. I know the consequences of injustices. I know the devastation of discrimination. I've worked as a social worker with broken families and broken children. I served as a career law enforcement officer, so I've been on the ground dealing with families and individuals and their issues, trying to restore them, make them safe, and make them whole. I've dedicated my life to public service. I now serve in Congress. I serve on 3 pretty critical committees. If asked, I would be honored to serve. But when I look at my life and my background, having my name called for such a critical position is exactly the kind of opportunity that I am trying to create for young boys and young girls just like me, or those who are struggling to have equal opportunity in a country that we say is the greatest country in the world. And so it is an honor, and certainly I would be honored to serve my country, to continue to serve my country in such a special way.
And that being said, Congresswoman, can you talk a little bit about the importance of this particular election, which is coming up in November, as far as the presidential election is concerned?
I feel like everything is at stake. And let me start here. I listened to an interview a couple of weeks ago with Oprah and former President Jimmy Carter. And she asked him, told him that during his term, they were pretty tough on him, and asked him, but as he reflects back, well, how does he feel the time was for him? And he said, look, he told the truth, he obeyed the law, and he kept the peace. Now, those are things that we would normally just assume any president would do. We're not seeing that now. We are fighting for the very soul of America. Everything is at stake. What do we have to lose? Decency, honor, civility, a crisis manager, someone who takes a medical pandemic seriously and takes the necessary steps that it takes. We're fighting racism and sexism. We need a commander-in-chief who has not only the ability, but has the political will to represent everybody. Those who are the top 1%, but don't forget about the other 99% of Americans that you are responsible for. We need a bridge builder. And so our moral character and who we are as a nation is at stake. And, we love to say that this is the most important election. I gotta tell you, if we think about what has occurred over the last 3+ years, there is no doubt this is the most important election.
Congresswoman, we're running out of time, but I do have to ask, for those people who feel like or who say that the Democrats have taken advantage of the black vote, they haven't been as thankful for it. What are your thoughts on that, for voting for Democrats, wanting black community to continue to vote for Democrats?
Well, you know what? I think that is a fair observation. One of the things that I did as a police chief was to try to recruit men and women who reflected the diversity in the community that they were going to serve. And I also tried to reflect that diversity at all ranks, which means not just the people who are responding to calls for service, but those who are promoted through the ranks really needed to reflect the diversity of the community. I would say that, it's already been said, African American women are the most loyal voting bloc, but we also know that black men and black women play a powerful role at the polls. And I would say that when we think about elected office, starting with local, state, and federal, Black men and Black women should be reflected at all elected levels. The power that the Democratic Party says that we have, it needs to be reflected in appointments and in cabinets and in running mates and in other decision-making positions. And so, look, I know that we always, we're going to do the right thing. We're going to support those who reflect our values, our beliefs, and who remember the least of these. But put your money where your mouth is, and we're all waiting to see how that shakes out this election season.
Representative Val Demings of Florida, thank you so much for taking all of this valuable time to spend with us and enlightening us. You're welcome here anytime, of course.
Thank you so much. Invite me back.
And your husband. You have to, a special
right.
hello to the mayor of Orange County, her husband, Jerry Demings, who we did not get a chance to talk about, but we'll have him on as well sometime. Both of you we'd love to have back. Thank you so much.
Open invitation.
Thank you so much. Take care. Be safe.